We did.
It is totally on purpose. Every bit of everything we do is an absolute masterpiece, and there's no way we could possibly go wrong. Agreed?
We're professionals, goddammit.
Monologue concluded.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. American, all ships at sea. I got no goddamn monologue for you tonight because Monologue Boy dropped the ball. Monologue Boy peed down his leg. Monologue Boy couldn't do the one job he has. But in order to earn myself a little bit of audience sympathy, I did become a grandsire since last time we convened. So, and yes,
congratulations.
I have selected my own custom epithet, and I will be referred to as grandsire. I'm not making that up.
Excellent.
Somebody's got to do it.
I am Papa Squatch myself. That is how that panned out. Yeah, it blew my mind when the first time I told that kid she could barely walk, and I was like, "Can you say Papa Squatch?" She said Papa Squatch, and her mama looked at me and went, "I think you just made an error, sir." No, it was planned.
One thing that kid does not have is any grandpas named Grandpa, and I'm fine with that. Somebody's got to be original in this goddamn world,
right? Screw those trendsetters.
Yeah. Doing normal traditional things.
We're gonna hop right off into the top of this thing like it's open for everybody. Welcome in, Kissy May. Good to see you. Appreciate you coming through. We got Justifiable Patriot. What's up, bud? And Mr. Beak has showed up. You know, I once told you that if Mr. Beak comes to your show, you're already famous.
I do recall that.
I stand by it. What's up,
Fletch? Welcome, my
brother. Apparently, it's very, very effective. So, I watched this most recent episode of The House of the Dragon, and
you've got a whole sheep stealer dissertation for us, don't you?
So, all right, so to do this right, do this justice, I'm gonna need to pick your brain a little bit, but
go for it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, right? Just chime in any old time I come across something. Sheep Stealer is one of at least 3 dragons that still occupy Dragonstone from old, right? These are dragons that when the Targaryens were occupying Dragonstone as their primary redoubt, they had a full dragon thing going on. And when they left, these were unchosen dragons that were essentially left behind because they were unchoosable, right?
Yes, they are the most ancient dragons that are known to exist. They were occupying Dragonstone before the Targaryens ever left Valyria.
So while we don't have an exact number on how old these three dragons could be, we do know that they are distinctly older than any dragons currently underfoot of any Targaryen in the current age of the film, right?
Correct. And none has ever been claimed. All hundreds of years wild.
Right, but that's not entirely true, because where there's a will, there is a way, and stark raving, batshit entitled females will walk up and pet fucking anything. And I still want you to pay attention. The goddamn dragon let her do it. He let her do it, and you should pay attention to that. The most dangerous thing on the earth is a liberal female.
It's true, and you know what actually just occurred to me recently, a day or two ago, is that dragon riding is one of the few areas in this universe that is where complete gender equity exists. There's just as many women dragon riders as male dragon riders, and in fact, just as many female dragons as male dragons. And oftentimes, the female dragons are the largest and the most fearsome. Vhagar being an obvious example. So, yeah, in such a misogynistic world, I guess we have one case of true, honest to God women's lib right there, and dragons and dragon riders.
Welcome in, Abby Normal. Good to see you. Appreciate you coming through. So what we have is a 90-pound soy girl with
noodle-armed soy girl.
Noodle-armed soy girl, yes, sir, with an obvious melanin issue, whereas she has too much and not enough to be a Targaryen at the same time.
Yeah.
And I have no problem with that. The problem I have is she cojones up enough nuts to walk up to the literal most destructive creature to have ever crawled Westeros in the history of its existence. And remember, there are both fire drakes and White Walkers crawling on this planet, and this thing is nastier. And she gets on it. She talks to it in Valyrian, proves she has Targaryen blood, and climbs on it. But I want you to pay really close attention to the animal that this woman climbs onto, right? It is literally a forest of spiny spikes and scales. I'm not sure where she put that narrow ass on its back, but I'm pretty sure it got poked somewhere, if not a couple of somewheres. And she stayed on it.
That's a dragon that looks like he's been rode hard and put away wet. And he's got such a bad underbite, he almost looks like Millie Alcock.
It reminds me of one
week, ladies and gentlemen.
Dude, that's fucking bad. You almost walked right by that shit, didn't look at it. I tried real hard. Are you going to take care of me forever and ever? I'm just fucking with you. There's some stuff is in the wrong place. But seriously. So she goes and gets like this absolute menace. This thing has been terror. In fact, we've mentioned this before. There are no full-time occupants of Dragonstone. While Dragonstone has perhaps several hundred acres of arable land and farmable locations, that is really not enough to keep the castle supplied to such a minimal extent that not even a skeleton crew can survive. Let's see. What does that say?
P-Fletch, you may circle the bases now, my good man.
They can't help it, right? No, you're right. He's got us. Yeah, you get the participation trophy. Welcome
good
in,
call
brother.
Good call on the Habsburg jaw, my friend.
Okay, so these dragons ain't got shit on Angalagon the Black. Took the full force of 10,000 suns for 24 hours straight to kill him, and his body crushed a mountain range. You just went deeper into the lore than I could go. I'm not sure who Ancalagon the Black is. Ansalagon?
Yeah, that all flew completely over my head.
I recognize the name. I can't place it though. And that thing about 10,000 suns, I've seen that before, but I can't place where.
Yeah, it's a reference I often use, but I don't know where it comes from. I often will say I hate something with the white hot intense fury of 1,000 burning suns.
10,000 burning suns.
Maybe I should switch it to 10,000. I like 10,000 better, I think.
If you get a chance, man, you really do need to go take a look at I think it's called Melniboné, the first Targaryens, or it might be Elric, the first Targaryen. These is a race of dragon riding elves and aliens that basically invade a planet and took it over and then got bored with it and took a nap for 10,000 years. It's hard to explain, but it's the Elric saga. And if you get a chance, go check it out. Sometimes you need a
good siesta, you know?
Oh, right. No. He's doing a reference from the Silmarillion. And that's why I didn't.
Silmarillion? Okay, I got it.
That's like the one Tolkien book I have not read twice. Right.
Well, yeah, it's kind of a slog to get through. I mean, it makes Fire and Blood look like a real page turner.
Yeah, right. Wow. But anyway, so Sheep Stealer's been dominating this general region unless Balerion just happens to be hanging around over there, because there's some people that believe that the cannibal is Balerion, that Balerion didn't die, that his rider died and he went rogue off to freaking Asire somewhere and has been living and then came back to Dragonstone after all of that. What?
But isn't his skull mounted in the throne room in the Red Keep?
Supposedly, but 3 dragons died in that fight, and no one there's not a all right. So some parts of the story are done by what I refer to as reliable narrator, and it's when there's no one observing it. Right? It's almost like you're a spirit over the top of it watching down. I think that's the only part that's a reliable narrator. It's like at the battle of the Tower of Joy, right? Ned Stark shows up with his sixes, his biggest bruisers, and gets cut down like wheat and chaff by fucking Arthur Dayne. Arthur Dayne's homie only lasted through the first couple of rounds, and they murked his ass. He never actually dropped anybody in that fight.
Arthur Dayne going all two-fisted on some motherfuckers.
Murks the living shit out of everybody, and is in the process of explaining to Ned Stark why he should not have come here when some asshole takes a healing potion and stabs him in the neck.
But you know what always bugged me about that incident is wouldn't Arthur Dayne or one of his 2 buddies at some point said, she's not being held hostage here. She's in love with the guy. They got married. She's having a baby. Go up and see her.
And it would have taken Ned Stark 2 seconds to go, yeah, that sounds like my sister.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of that, you know what that brings to mind is the Mad King play just debuted this week in Stratford-on-Avon, Shakespeare's old stomping ground. I heard a review of it this morning, and it sounds like it was pretty cool. I guess it hasn't officially debuted, but this was the first sort of dry run that they've done in front of an audience, and I guess they invited a lot of Game of Thrones YouTuber type people to come and see it, and they sounded pretty stoked on the thing. So I'm hoping that some kind of video of it comes out, because God forbid one should have to fly all the way to goddamn England to see a play one wants to see. Maybe it'll go on the road.
So, all right, I want to run a theory by you that I've been percolating in my head. Remember what I said about the unreliable aspects of the narrators? I don't think you can trust Bran's visions. I don't think you can trust the 3-eyed raven. You can't trust Ned Stark because he's lied at least twice. You can't trust none of the fucking knights that are witnessing everything. Everyone has a fucking angle, and you can't trust any of them. So any observation by any character about another character is unreliable. The only parts of the books you can accept on face value are the parts where it's being mentioned not by a character in the book, but as an observation of like the over narrator, which is very rare that happens in the book. It's usually at the very beginning of a chapter trying to explain where you're at or whatever. Here's my point.
Go ahead.
At the Tower of Joy, Ned Stark claims that he killed Arthur Dayne. Everyone who knows Arthur Dayne knows that is bullshit. That is absolute poppycock. That didn't happen. We don't know what did happen, but you're lying, boy. And that's
stabbed in the back by Howland Reed over a matter of $80.
Yep. That's that's part of the reason why he's kind of frowned upon, because there's at least 2 lies in this man's life, and they're not wrong. There is, but they're wrong on what those lies are. One, they're right about. He didn't kill Arthur Dayne in a fair sword fight. No one believes that shit. Not one soul. Even Robert Baratheon just coughed and said bullshit and walked away from it. That didn't happen.
And Ned Stark ain't no slouch, but let's face it, he ain't Arthur Dayne.
Right, so here's my question. How old is Arthur Dayne whenever he dies?
30-ish, maybe?
Okay. How old is Mance Rayder when he fights Jon Snow?
That is a good question, because our views of these things are skewed, I think, by the fact that pretty much every character on the TV show was aged up from how old they were in the book. So I don't remember how old Mance Rayder was in the book, but probably not as old as Ciarán Hinds was when he played the character in the show.
I don't have any idea how old Mance Rayder is, but they say it took him 30 years to assemble the North under a single banner, right? He's the man, the king beyond the wall. In order to be called that, it took him 30 years, and he's been marching around with that army, wiping up the few little remnants of folks that haven't joined him for like 5 years at this point. And so he's turned his attention to the wall. I am. Right. So if Arthur Dayne was 30, then Mance Rayder would have been 60 at the point in time if Arthur Dayne were Mance Rayder. Because let's look at the timeline here. If in the books, I'm almost certain that Arthur Dayne was 25 when he died. I don't know why I think that, but I'm pretty sure. He's in half a dozen battles, 24 tournaments, but it's not actually a lot when you look at the volume of tourneys compared to like Arthur Penetry, right? It's not a shitload. And I think if he became a knight at 16, 15, picked up the Sword of the Dawn and Sword of the Morning at 18, then he would be one of the greatest swordsmen at the age of around 25, and no one would believe that 16-year-old Ned Stark carved him down. There's no way. So at 25, 30 years, he's 50. He's the age Mance Rayder would be when he reaches the North. Does that check out, at least as far as mathematically?
And I think a lot of people lose sight of that, of the fact that Ned Stark actually in the book is a freaking teenager at the time of that confrontation, even though in the show he was played by a man who was firmly in his 20s at the time.
Sure. And also, Arthur Dayne was also played by a guy. Everybody in the show is aged up. I mean, Sansa was like, what, 12? 11? Yeah. She's 14 when she gets put under the dwarf, right? She's like 14, fixing to turn 15, and he's expected to deflower her, and he absolutely refuses to be a pedo. And it's one of the greatest bits, not only in the series, but in the books. It's a real thing, because he's the ultimate womanizer. He is the imp. He'll do anything. He'll screw anyone. And yet here is this absolutely flawless, perfect beauty of the North that walks in and says, anything you wish, my lord. I wish you would go the fuck away. You're distracting me. Stop it. Because she's like 14 and he's not going to do that. That is, apparently there is one thing he won't do, which is
I'm going to sleep on the couch, honey.
Yeah. And that's part of what breaks him in the long run in the books, is that little stint he spends blind drunk, because every other thought is going home to do Sansa. And every time he has that thought, he just drinks another freaking bottle of wine. No. Freaking, Jon Snow would kill me.
I mean, he's got his hot little mistress in the next room, so he probably just goes and drops the hammer on her whenever the urge gets too bad.
But the problem is if he can actually bed her, he's almost a shoo-in for Warden of the North. Oh
yeah, definitely, absolutely.
Yep. But that's exactly what his father wants.
That's why Daddy Tywin put it as simply as he did. You're going to marry her. You're going to put a child in her. This ain't fucking rocket surgery, son. Now get to work.
So Anyway, I was looking through that particular stack of episodes this past week. I don't know what it was. My autism was itching on it. And I went back and looked at the fight of the Tower of Joy. That fight, it's not very succinct. The final scene in that looks like a scene out of like a fake scene out of a movie, right? It looks like somebody.
I think it was a disappointingly overproduced fight.
Okay, sure. I don't think that's an accident. I think that's because the only way we see that fight is through the eyes of the three-eyed raven.
True.
We don't get to see it from like the overview narrator point.
And that goes back to something we were talking about the other day, where we enjoy the fact that in the shows that are part of this universe, particularly with respect to the Hound versus Brienne of Tarth and Sir Duncan the Tall versus Aerion Targaryen, we like the fact that these one-on-one, hand-to-hand combat situations are dealt with in a fairly realistic way, and not like a choreographed freaking Star Wars lightsaber fight where everybody's doing spins and flips and twirly things. And
I watched the Hound versus Brienne of Tarth. I watched that thing 3 times in a row, and then I put it on like half speed the third time, and I was sitting there eating some pot roast with potatoes and carrots and stuff, and there was nobody around, and it's just there's only, if I counted right, there are only 3 points where they do that stupid freeze motion shit where they finish a maneuver and everybody stands still for like 2 seconds so they can get the cut, right? Right. That shit. Today, I was watching the new Mortal Kombat movie, and that's all I could see were the cut points between the different acrobatic maneuvers that were being done.
Mm-hmm. When you have to cut from the stunt double back to the actor, back to the stunt double, back to the actor. Right. And so that's why you get a camera cut every 0.46 seconds.
Right. And on top of that, whenever they were actually doing the choreography stuff, you can almost hear, if you watch the way their feet move, you can literally hear in your head them counting in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and there and here, and then we run the door, and 1 and 2 and yeah, I don't know. It just
as a practical matter,
it agitates me.
It's a dance routine. And when you get right down to it, it's a dance routine. It's a highly choreographed dance routine. Unless
the movie makers were making a joke about movie makers, because in the movie, Johnny Cage is an actor, and they do a fight scene with him in the movie as Johnny Cage, starring in the movie Caged Fury, right? Or Civilian Cage or whatever. So he's doing this fight routine, and all of the hits are like Steven Seagal bad. It's really, really bad. And the freezes at the end of each maneuver are like really long. So it's like, and then it cuts, and then it cuts, and then it cuts, you know.
Future historians will spill gallons of ink trying to figure out how Steven Seagal became a movie star.
No, they won't. It's easy, bro. China financed that whole fucking bankroll. We know it. You know it. It's not a fucking mystery, my brother. Fuck yeah. We're done with that one. We need another one. I'd drink with you, but I can't. I got to drive after the show, so, you know, can't done it. But anyway, Sheep Stealer. So Sheep Stealer's this we don't know, 400-year-old dragon, 300-year-old dragon.
Nobody knows. Could be 1,000 years old. Dragon. I mean, look the son of a bitch.
So there's this scene.
Motherfucker.
Yeah, he is. There's this scene in this most recent episode where Sheep Stealer is set upon by not 1, not 2, but I think 3 dragons simultaneously. And
Cyrax, he does it, and Caraxes and fucking Sea Smoke.
So in the 3 dragons' defense, they're all less than 25, 30 years old. Yeah. With the exception of Aemon's dragon, who is pushing, 45, 50, something like that. Not Aemon, the other one. Daemon's dragon. He's the oldest there. The rest of them are like 20.
I can't remember who Caraxes' writer was before Damon, but I'm going to ask the internet machine right now.
Yeah, do that thing. Because anyway, so in this scene, you have a wound that is delivered to Sheep Stealer that in every other scene in the show, welcome in, Tootie Bug. Every other scene that involves wounding a dragon in the show is immediately fatal to that dragon, with the exception of Sunfire. He takes an almost identical injury and just takes a nap for a little while, right?
Yeah, yeah. And there's been pretty drastic inconsistency with what a fatal injury to a dragon actually entails, as there has also been with growth rates of dragons, as we've talked about before.
Yeah.
Particularly Cyrax, because Cyrax it was hatched with Rhaenyra. That was her cradle egg when she was born, and we saw what size he was when she was Millie Alcock, and he's exactly the same size now, 20 odd years later, when she's Emma Darcy. But that's not really consistent with the precedent of the universe, which says that dragons really never stop growing. They keep growing the older they get, and Vhagar, I believe, is okay. Go ahead.
Let's fall back to some classic TSR concepts here and say that there are 3, maybe 4 age groups for dragons. You've got the young, the juvenile, and the wormling. These 3 are unrideable. They're too small. They're too young. And from that point forward, they're rideable, but not necessarily unless they accept you.
Yeah.
Here's a question. How does this fucking string bean of an alopecia victim manage to climb on Sheep Stealer and not get eaten?
It's an interesting question, and I think that has much to do with the fact that we're basically smashing together the characters of Rhaena and Nettles, because let's remember, 2 episodes ago when Daemon and Caraxes find Rhaena and Sheep Stealer in their little cave hideout, what does Rhaena say when Daemon asks her how is it that you impossibly managed to claim a wild dragon, and she just says, I fed him sheep. So the way it played out in the show, it made it look as if this was the first time that she ever had a face-to-face encounter with the dragon and just climbed up on his back and off they went. But I think they're implying that was not necessarily their first meeting, that maybe she did do the Nettles part of the story and brought him a sheep every day until she gained his willingness to mount him.
Well, I mean, if I remember right, and I read this way back when I was like trying to get clean from smack, and so my brain ain't exactly on that shit. But if I remember right, Nettles found where it slept and brought the sheep to it, and so for a couple of months, the damn dragon didn't even have to leave his freaking hooch to get decent meal.
Brought him a sheep every morning, and eventually, there was a sufficient bond of affection that developed that the son of a bitch said, "Oh, sure, climb on, let's go for a little."
Did she sing to him too? Some like Valerian something or other, some song that she didn't know the words of. But this is Nettles. This isn't like the chick in the show. This is different.
Yeah,
it doesn't even really equate.
And we're kind of just smashing the 2 characters together, but only in the areas where it's convenient for the narrative that we're trying to adopt for the show. And remember
contradictions. Yeah, okay, I gotcha.
And remember also in last week's episode when they really explicitly draw the connection between the 2, when Daemon goes and sees Jane Eyre and she says, "Oh, there are legends around the Vale of a girl who lives with a dragon among nettles and sheep." And so they actually said the word nettles as if it wasn't already abundantly obvious enough what they were actually doing. But I think the implication there is that we go back to the fact that Fire and Blood is a compilation of, in universe, it's a compilation of unreliable narrators. And perhaps they are implying that Nettles actually really was Rhaena, and the people who developed the legend and shared the rumors with one another didn't have any way of knowing that, and a new person was Granted, it doesn't really work that well because when you delve into it a little bit, because if I'm not mistaken, Nettles was one of the dragon seeds who went to Dragonstone upon Rhaenyra's first invitation to attempt to claim a dragon, just like Ulf and Hugh did. Isn't that right?
And stayed there because even after the choosing and all of that stuff, she kind of did the 10-year-old fuck this bullshit. And I know where a couple of fucking dragons are. And she wandered off into the goddamn universe to go find one and did. And that was the difference between her and the rest of them is she, from that point on, she's not really in the story as far as anything to do with Targaryens. She's just Nettles over there in the wild. But here's my problem. Hold on. I would have much rather, and this would have been awesome if they could have done this, but they'd have been freaking canceled. I did trim my beard. If they had taken a chunky chick and made her this character and then have her do the starvation thing into the waif of Nettles, that would have been awesome. Really hard to do. And might have involved a couple of different actresses, but I think it could have been done with the 3 different scenes of her taking the dragon, because you wouldn't necessarily have to have shown her doing any of the Nettles stuff to imply that Rhaena was Nettles. You could have simply showed how much weight she lost doing the shit, right? And Correct. It would have been an implication that would have carried through, I think.
And I did think it was kind of cute when they did that little scene where one of the aspects of their bonding and forming a connection is that Sheep Stealer shows up and regurgitates a sheep and cooks it for Rhaena to eat, and that's shortly before they
and she eats it.
Yeah, and she devours the damn thing. Well, she was probably hungry, and that's shortly before their first ride together. And I thought that part of it was actually pretty well done.
Yeah, I don't hate it. Okay, so you know I was a very big non-fan of the first season of House of the Dragon. I really hated on it hard. I don't regret that decision, although I've kind of cut a deal with my wife. We're going to go back and watch House of the Dragon from the beginning, and I'm going to try to take into account Night of the Seven Kingdoms and the 3rd season of House of the Dragon so far, and pay attention perhaps. I'm sorry, maybe I actually didn't watch it real close. I mean, I did have a pretty nasty taste in my mouth because the first round of dragons imagery wasn't great. I wasn't very impressed with their dragons, and so I kind of got maybe a little thorn stuck in my paw with it.
Sure.
But more recently, and they still have some perspective issues, right? Sometimes Syrax is as big as a fucking house, and sometimes it's barely as big as a bus, you know. And every now and then, old blonde homeboy just hops up on his back like he jumps 35 feet straight into the air, and that makes 0 sense.
Yeah, and also you have the issue of what is a dragon actually able to do in terms of agency when its rider is not actually on top of it? Because one of the things we did see in season 1 was dragons basically flying on remote control in warfare. Caraxes, specifically, when Daemon does the little stunt where he goes to the island and pretends to surrender, and then they draw the crab feeders forces out of the caves, and then the dragons descend. Sea Smoke and Caraxes show up, but Caraxes obviously isn't being ridden by Daemon, but he knows exactly what he is supposed to do. And we sort of have that issue again in last week's episode, where we have this fatal 4-way WWE type dragon battle, and
I'm off the top ring rope.
And that's the bottom line. Anyway, but we see Daemon climbing up on top of Caraxes in order for him to be able to get the dragon to do what he wants to do. But meanwhile, Sea Smoke and Syrax are taking instructions from their riders who are not actively riding them. And I think it's kind of a difficult thing to reconcile. Maybe I think about this stuff too much. It wouldn't be the first time.
No, I do not think that is an overthought at all. I noticed it, but I kind of logged it in the back of my head. It doesn't make any sense now that I think about it, because I could see Daemon's dragon doing what the fuck Daemon wants, because he knows Daemon wants him to kill absolutely everything that moves, and that's not a real hard ask for a dragon. On the other hand, to attack Sheep Stealer, historically speaking, is very bad for a dragon's help. Very bad for a dragon's, because he is an absolute unit. He's a fucking brute. He is a thug. He takes all 3 of the dragons on in a row. He doesn't win the fight, but he flies away.
Oh, he limps away. I don't think we see him take flight.
Okay.
But he's definitely not dead. And it's a shame that we're not going to see the cannibal in this series, because I would like to see what they do with the cannibal design wise. But there's no way they can bring him in, because they have got such an unconscionable amount of shit that they need to get through in the
fourth
they
season.
Could. We are through 3 out of 4 seasons, and we are only halfway through that Civil War. Do you realize that we're the culminating event of the season finale tonight is the first Battle of Tumbleton, which takes place midway through the year 130. So we've had a year and a half of the war, and we've still got a year and a half to go. And do you even know the number of things they're going to have to speed run through in 8 goddamn episodes next season? It's going to be ridiculous. They're going to have to just completely eliminate some stuff, smash other stuff together. I'm not sure how they're going to pull it off. One thing I do know is that the show really, really suffered when the network cut the order of episodes per season from 10 to 8. It really reared its head in an ugly way in season 2, and I think it's kind of doing that again in season 3, and I think that's going to get magnified in season 4, because they've got more shit to get through than they possibly can, I think.
And hear me, Netflix, who's running this show? HBO. Hear me. You could very feasibly do a final wrap-up season of a limited television special type miniseries concept. We used to do these things called miniseries back in the day, where you had 2-hour blocks that would be released weekly, kind of like a series, but shorter, but longer, but shorter. So you get more in depth with different shit, but also you don't have to take certain shit too seriously. You can tell about a bunch of stuff and show a bunch of stuff, and you still got the time to do the thing, but it's not as strenuous as like a weekly season, you know. When they went from 16 episodes to 10, they screwed the pooch entirely, in my opinion.
You mentioned Night of the Seven Kingdoms a little bit ago, and have you gone back and rewatched that yet? I just did. I have to. And
I like that motherfucker 2 days ago. The whole thing. I liked
it even more the second time.
Yeah.
But if you just eliminated the concept of episodes entirely, that is a really tight, solid 2.5, 3 hour movie. If you
And like I said, I sat down. You could literally just edit those damn things together. There's no really hard break in continuity in there. Although I also this goes back to the Hound and Brienne of Tarth fight, and the Arian. Who did Duncan fight?
Yeah,
Arian. Okay, so the Hound is not a knight.
No.
Brienne of Tarth
be a knight.
Has no desire to be a knight. Brienne of Tarth, at the time she fights the Hound, is not a knight. And both of them, within the first 30 seconds of combat, have reverted to hitting a motherfucker with a rock. Like, they had no sense of propriety when it comes to combat. There's no honor amongst guys hitting people with rocks.
Yep, no chivalry to be found in that fight. That's for damn sure.
And I'm excited now, because I actually went back and rewatched that whole sequence again with like fresh eyes, kind of knowing what was going on, and you know what I'm saying. I didn't have to wonder how it was going to turn out. I'm kind of excited to see the Winter War. What is it called? The Winterfell War. When they do that, because there is a scene where Brienne of Tarth and the Hound, it's where Jaime Lannister knights her, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the most beautiful scenes in the entire freaking series. It looks woke as shit, because it's shot to look woke as shit. I mean, every man in that room looks at that woman and goes, I'm not positive I could take her. I mean, she might kick my ass. Like, that is possible. She's 6'6", 240 pounds, built like a brick shit house. Yeah.
Because the show had done the work of earning that scene, it became the most, it's probably the only thing in season 8 that everybody likes. I feel completely confident in saying that.
It is the spiritual opposite of Arya Stark jumping clean out of a fucking plot hole to stab the Night King. Literally in plot hole. You can see the hole visibly. It's one of my favorite scenes because one scene she's hiding from shit in a goddamn library, and the next scene she pops out and stabs this fucker in the heart. It's like, you did not earn that.
You want to talk about narrative incongruity, and you're correct, not earning it. That is exactly what that looks like. That is just being woke for the sake of wokeness. And why did she have to have a sex scene? Why did Arya have to have a sex scene? Will somebody please explain that to me?
Because she is a girl? I don't know. Because a girl takes the D? I don't know, dude. Hey, hold on. I am not a woman
on the planet who wasn't grossed out by that.
I'm sorry, dude. I might have tagged the blacksmith on the night of the fucking battle too. Like, I'm not gonna lie, that is a very handsome man. and he is making the weapons and armor that's gonna cover my ass. So I might give him a piece just for luck. So it might make sense for Arya. Although,
unfortunately, he didn't perform well enough that she was willing to go be the Lady of Storm's End. So take that for what you will.
That's true. Is Needle Valyrian Steel? It's not.
I don't believe so. I've wondered that from time to time, and I don't believe that they ever say it is.
I can't find anywhere for there to be a missing bit of Valyrian Steel that isn't like known where it's missing. You know what I mean? Like, they know that it fell in the sea.
And there's that scene where Ned Stark looks at the sword and recognizes the maker's mark because he knows the smithy that did it. So if he and we know that nobody who's native to Westeros knows how to work Valyrian steel, because at the start of season 4, when Tywin Lannister has ice melted down and 2 new swords made out of it, he has to import a couple of smiths from Essos because they are the only people in the world who still have the knowledge of how to work Valyrian steel. So I think that makes it pretty safe to say that it is regular steel and not Valyrian.
So I love the Brienne Tarth character. I think it would be impossible for anyone else to have played that character. And I love the fact that they used a larger than average woman to do that character. I might have been able to buy what's her name, the one from Mandalorian, Carrara.
Gina Carano.
Gina Carano, right? I might have been able to buy her in a suit of armor, but Brienne of Tarth, I completely buy. Another chick that might have been able to pull it off, although I don't know if she could do it with her new Ozempic regimen, is Haley. What's her fuck from? Not the Expedition. That's a totally different fucking series.
What about Lucy Lawless during her Xena period?
I never really bought Lucy Lawless in the first place. China O'Brien.
She did look kind of artificially pumped up, but I'm trying to think of girls I could picture, playing a larger than life role like Brienne of Tarth. But like you said, I don't think anybody but Gwendolyn Christie could have done it convincingly. And what a stroke of luck it was that they were able to find her. And she happened to be just exactly the right age and exactly the right physicality in order to be able to pull
casting.
It off.
Perfect casting.
Absolutely.
The chick I was trying to think of was the Martian Marine in The Expanse. I have a lifelong love of this woman. I don't care if she Ozempics herself off the map, I'd still fucking hit it just because of the role she played in that, because in The Expanse, it's got a whole bunch of super woke bullshit blended into it, but it doesn't get in the way of the story in most cases. One place where it could have gotten in the way of the story is with the casting of the Martian Marine in question. Had they used an effeminate panty waist in that position, you would not have been able to buy her walking in and hanging a foot off in the middle of a whole bunch of big badass guys. But when they got the chick that's doing it, she went on to play in the guy with the arrows from fucking the Avengers, his daughter,
Hawkeye,
like her, Hawkeye's daughter, the lady Hawkeye,
Haley Steinfeld.
Pretty sure it's that same chick that played the Martian Marine in The Expanse. But the reason it sold in The Expanse was because, just for the same reason that it sold with Brianna Tarth, she was physically capable of being that role. Right, she was strapped like a brick shit house, just like Brianna is 6 foot, whatever the hell she is. Standing next to the Hound, she's staring at his nose, right, and he's like 6'9". He's huge, and then you got the Mountain over there, and he's 7'4". He's gigantic. And
it wouldn't even matter nowadays, because nowadays,
Andrew,
in the age of woke girl boss Hollywood, you can just take any 95-pound noodle-armed female and have her easily defeat any grown man in hand-to-hand combat, 1, 2, 7, 10 at a time, doesn't matter. That's basically the way every action movie starts now. We've talked about this before. Every action movie in the first 5 minutes has to have a 95-pound noodle-armed female defeating multiple grown men in hand-to-hand combat. It's one of the obligatory boxes that you check when you're making an action movie. I don't think casting directors today would even give a shit about doing the work necessary to find someone as appropriate as Gwendolyn Christie was for the role of Brianna Tarth. And in that sense, thank God that show was made when it was and not 15 years later.
True. Same thing with The Expanse as well. That also pans out. That's about the right time period for it to have been the last gasp of hope. But there are signs that we're coming out of this,
Yes.
There's definitely been a drawback of the whole DEI push. And I just want to bring your attention to the episode of The Mandalorian with Jack Black and that fat bitch.
Oh, God.
Where they literally just completely DEI'd an entire episode, I think, because they had a minimum amount of DEI they had to do in order to get funding, and so they just shoved it all into one episode and hired Jack Black for the credits.
I'm reminded also of the episode of Star Trek Discovery, which we have, of course,
loved. Draper, thank you. Oh my God, thank you, sir. That's her name in the show. I could not come up with it. I kept saying Robina, all kinds of other shit, but I couldn't do it. Thank you. Fuck yeah. Fucking aneurysm.
But anyway, the episode of STD where who randomly shows up playing the president of Earth? Fucking Stacey Abrams? You're serious right now? Stacey Abrams. And you say you're not pushing a political... You Stacey goddamn Abrams showing up, playing the president of Earth. Where are the fridges, Stacey? We don't know where the fridges are. That's not important now. But you drag out Stacey goddamn Abrams to play the president of Earth, and you say you don't have a woke agenda? Shut the fuck up. Just go away. Thank God Kurtzman Trek is now officially over and done with. I can't believe it lasted 10 years, but maybe in our lifetime, we will still get Star Trek that's not terrible.
I'm not holding my breath. Stacey Abrams tried to run for governor of Georgia or some crap over here. Right? Yeah. Lost 3 times or something.
3 times. Yep.
And when the last concert I remember going to was, oh fuck. Anyway, I go to this concert. It's this famous black performers. They're up there doing the whole thing, and they're in Georgia, and this has attracted the country folk have come to town, as it were, right? Mm-hmm. And we're sitting there, and everything's cool, and the pre-show goes, and then they do this weird political thing that went down in between the two shows. that everybody just went to the bathroom and went and got beer and stuff and came back. And so that really didn't have an effect. And then the chick that was the mainliner, the headliner of the night, comes out and she starts trying to pump the crowd to vote Democrat and is getting booed. And she got mad and snapped back that because she was going through the spiel about how you need to get out there on the polls and you need to vote for Stacey Abrams. And the whole place went dead silent for a second. And then there's somebody's like, boo. And somebody else was like, boo. Like everybody went, boo. And she goes, she's progressive. And then she just turns around and walks off the stage for like a minute and a half and comes back and does the show. But it was an interesting interaction there between thousands of adoring fans and an extremely hateful progressive.
There is no bigger buzzkill in the entire world than going to a show, paying, whatever inflated price you pay for the ticket to see a musical act that you want to see. And then they stop in the middle of the proceedings and go into some goddamn stupid political harangue. Yes, I'm looking right at you, Bruce Springsteen. Yes, stupid, crusty old piece of shit. Just shut up and play your damn songs. Nobody wants to hear your political views. They want to hear the songs you wrote when you were in your 20s. This is not rocket surgery. Just play the songs you wrote when you were in your 20s. That's why they just go take a leak. Like you said, they go take a leak and buy a beer when the stupid, god-awful 5-minute political harangue starts. Nobody wants to hear it. Even people who agree with your politics don't want to hear it because, as Alice Cooper famously said, nobody gives a damn what rock stars think about politics. It's the greatest Alice Cooper quote of all time. One of the greatest quotes by any rock star ever. And it's 100% true. Always has been, always will be.
Agreed. Speaking of concerts, I'm going to a series of concerts. September 17th through the 20th at the Highland Festival grounds in Kentucky at the Expo Center in Louisville. Louisville.
Oh,
Louisville. Okay.
Louisville. There it is.
Louisville. All right. 200 artists across 7 stages. We've got Iron Maiden, Pantera, Megadeth, Alex Cooper, Anthrax, Danzig, My Chemical Romance, Pierce the Veil, A Day to Remember, Limp Bizkit, Papa Roach, Sublime, Tool, Gojira, and Danny Elfman. I've never heard of Danny Elfman. But that is a hell of a lineup, my brother.
You've never Danny Elfman from Oingo Boingo? And
maybe I have.
And then became a film composer. Did the first couple Batman movies very famously.
Okay. I just didn't recognize the name. I guess. Yeah. I mean, I know the guy. Papa Roach, though, right? Limp Bizkit. Come on, man. This is like every concert I missed when I was growing up, all in 1 week.
Knowing Alice Cooper's birth name gets you a lot of points on this show, my friend.
That's Andrew. He knows some stuff, but he believes other stuff that maybe he shouldn't. I don't know.
That's you just got yourself in my good books in a big way.
Go visit your family in Kentucky. I don't know where you're gonna find tickets though. If you're going to get tickets for a show, and this is just my personal choice, I would do the Limp Bizkit show because closing is Sublime. The new Sublime, the new albums, and the old music with Jacob Noel play as the front man. And it's like listening to a ghost. It's amazing. And I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Do we know if that album came out yet?
Oh, dude, the album's been out.
Has it?
Yeah, no, this is the really weird part about how I stumbled across the fact that Sublime's touring again. I was on some
Junior, right?
I was on some road trip months ago, a little while ago, and I'm riding along and on the freaking radio, which my antenna's messed up, so I only get radio signal decently when I'm, near a city of some sort. So I don't usually use it. But I was in Savannah and I turned on the radio and I heard Ensenada and Until the Sun Explodes and literally got chills. I called my wife and was like, I don't know who this band is, but they sound so much like Sublime. I want to get tickets for them. And she's like, okay, that's cool. I'm in the middle of doing stuff, blah, 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 blah. And, hung up, and I didn't think anything about it until a couple of weeks later, I come across Ensenada on a YouTube playlist. And I was like, oh, who plays that? Sublime. Holy shit. How is this released in 2026? This doesn't make any sense.
Everybody I've spoken to had the exact same experience when they first heard Ensenada. And it's the experience you just described.
Because I knew exactly who that band was in my soul without believing that it was even remotely possible. Somebody has gone out and copied some shit, and this is going to turn out to be some AI trash, and they're going to get sued.
It's some AI trash because it's
regrettable. It's too good.
That's kind of the first thing you think nowadays, but it is what it is. That's the world we're in now.
Because it was too good. It was too on point. It was too perfect. It sounded like a ghost singing, and that's simply impossible, right? And then I was like, holy shit, it is Sublime. It's actually Sublime. And so I tell my wife, I want to go to a Sublime concert. And I'm looking up concerts. And when we saw the lineup, because the two choices that were in the Southeast that were close enough for even bother trying was in Alabama and Kentucky. And the one in Alabama is a one-night show, and it's like just Sublime and a couple of other folks. I don't even know who they are. But then this is at a music festival, and the fucking lineup is stellar, bro. The name of the festival is Louder Than Life. It's wild. I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
In Louisville.
Yeah, in that place that he says correctly that I can't quite get out because I'm from Georgia. It's
you're way closer to there than I am, and you should be able to say, but hey, sometimes I have talents that you just can't duplicate, and it is what it is.
I can explain. I live not far from a town here in Georgia called Louisville. Spelled exactly the same way. But if you go to Louisville and say Louisville, they're just going to look at you kind of cross-eyed and move on with their life.
Well, yeah, and that's you raise a good point, because sometimes it's difficult explaining that to foreigners who come to visit our country for the first time. They often ask, not unreasonably, why do you have a city called St. Louis and a city called Louisville? It seems like there's no commonality in your pronunciations here, and that's true. And
that is all local dialect.
And as far as people from the British Isles, particularly, they come here and say, why do you guys pronounce Pittsburgh and not Pittsburgh? Because the way I'm looking at that word, it should be pronounced Pittsburgh. And they're right. And there's actually a fun story behind that, which I think I've told on this program before. But there was so much confusion back in the first couple decades of I think it was the first decade of the 20th century, about the pronunciation of towns ending in burgh. Some were pronounced borough, some were pronounced burg, and so eventually the Postal Service put out a directive. They said, "Look, by this particular future date, I think it was 1 year in the future, every town needs to decide if you want it pronounced burg, then you have to drop the H. If you want it pronounced borough, then you have to change it to BORO. And that's why we have so many towns in the South where if it's pronounced borough, there's no GH on it, it's BORO. The only exception to that is Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh was the biggest city that said, no, screw you. We don't want to change our spelling or our pronunciation, so we demand a special dispensation, and their congressional delegation was able to lobby successfully to give them a special exemption from the rule. And that's the reason all of those town names are spelled that way. You're welcome.
Well, in their defense, Pittsburgh was here first.
It's true.
So they do have a leg to stand on. I mean, whatever rules you bring up now don't really apply to like the old fogies like Pittsburgh.
But yeah, I mean, all through the South, Waynesboro, Jonesboro, all those boroughs, they're all BORO when they used to be BURGH. But there was so much confusion on the part of the Postal Service because oftentimes there would be two towns in the same state with similar spellings, and one would be a borough and one would be a burg, and the Postal Service just eventually threw up their hands and said, you're making us get our job wrong. We don't want to get our job wrong. Make up your mind, pick one or the other. You have until such and such date. Begin.
And I mean, at some point in time, you have to realize that this is exactly reason why the Empire wasn't necessarily a bad thing in Star Wars.
They made the trains run on time.
They were very punctual. Yes, sir. Also,
everything was very clean and shiny.
That's true. That is also true. That was a law, but that was also true. Another thing is they equated all of the weights and measures across the entire known galaxy. Even the Hutts bowed to the will of the Empire when they changed measurements and made everything uniform. The Hutts went, okay. So,
well, yeah, and people don't realize how important commonality in weights and measures really is in terms of international commerce. It's the importance of it can't really be overstated. It's just like having time zones that aren't local to every single town, which is how it used to be. And there was no problem with having a time zone for every town until you started having railroads.
Yep. Because there's a demonstrable period of extreme profit and profiteering that takes place in the central period of the imperial period, right? The smugglers, everybody that's out there doing nefarious bullshit could not possibly have done that stuff under the previous galactic regime. It wouldn't have worked the way it worked under the Empire because there wasn't an empire to dodge. Smugglers were just, people with fancy ships that didn't stop in docks, and that wasn't really a big deal under the Republic, but under the Empire, that was like getting your hand cut off or something. So it's a little different.
You know what you just made me think of, and something I don't think any sci-fi franchise has dealt with it honestly yet in terms of relativity. The fact that if you actually had routine interstellar faster than light travel, you're not aging at the same rate as people are on your home, on the planet you left and your destination planet. You're actually going to be you're going to be quite a bit younger when you get home than the people who have remained on that planet in that gravity well that whole time.
Andrew just logged another 2 points over here. He says Palpatine wanted his two eyes pointed to the Yuuzhan Vong. Death Stars were to keep them out, right? And he's not wrong. There's a whole series pre-Yuuzhan Vong where there's a bunch where Palpatine's doing a bunch of really weird shit. And everybody knows he's doing weird shit because you remember that period of prosperity and growth and everything that I told you about? Mm-hmm. It was only relative to how it worked in the Republic. The inflation and everything went absolutely through the roof, and everything was regulated as far as the interior planets by the Empire. And so buying power wasn't really an issue. They wanted the goods. They would just change the laws and then confiscate everything and then change the laws back. And so goods in the core worlds were plentiful. They were absolutely, falling from the skies for virtually free because he didn't have to pay for it. But on the same time, he was profiting from all of his own personal privacy that was taken on through law changes, right? All of that money, literal planetary and galactic segment government type funding vanished like a fart in the wind. Over and everybody in the freaking Congress was going, well, he's obviously enriching himself. The whole time he's actually building these giant fucking world-ending machines capable of operating hundreds of years into the future that are just mind-bendingly complex, on par with the Death Star, right, itself. And he didn't do one or two. Because you got to remember, in order for the second Death Star to come online when it did, he was already 2/3 of the way through completing it when the first one blew up.
And meanwhile, back on Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon, they're using pitchforks to toss wheat onto a levitating grain cart and then taking it off-world with their coal-fired warp ships. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be
grain cart. Behold the horses. It levitates, but they got horses.
I still can't believe that movie was actually for real.
Oh my God, I can't wait until we cut to some more communist grade rearing. Oh my, slow motion communist sweating. You gotta love it, bro.
I almost want him to keep making sequels to that picture just so we can make fun of them.
Yeah, no, there's one more. There's one more. It's a trilogy. There's one more. We get one more. And coal-fired spaceships. Coal-fired. Dude, all right. If they'd just pitched this fucking thing,
dude's actually shoveling coal into boilers on a spaceship. And the studio said, "Sure, Zack Snyder, go ahead and do that." Yeah, that'll be great. Nobody will laugh at that. Everybody will take that seriously. Oh my God, dude, what goes on in your head?
DMT, obviously.
I'm gonna look up when Rebel Moon 3 comes out.
Yeah, there. And then on top of all of that, you've got this freaking Jesus robot happening over here. What's up with the Jesus robot, dude?
I got bad news for you, my friend.
Oh no! Don't tell me.
Rebel Moon Part 3 has not been officially greenlit or scheduled by Netflix, though director Zack Snyder and co-writer Kurt Johnstead have mapped out extensively detailed treatments for parts 3 through 6.
That's a big mistake. Go ahead.
That is a big. I'm guessing all 4 of those never get made. If you're holding a gun to my head. Development is currently on hold while Snyder focuses on other projects, which is a nice way of the industry saying, yeah, those pictures are never happening, my friend. Those are going to be in development hell until development hell freezes over.
Jesus. That's going to be like the Deadpool movie. I mean, that thing was literally in production hell, production limbo until Ryan Reynolds shows up and goes, "I'm going to be Deadpool. Can somebody make me Deadpool? Does anybody have a Deadpool script?"
Oh, yeah, you're right. I remember that. That was a long development hell period, and nobody could have extracted it from development hell except
Ryan Reynolds. Yes,
who played the absolute all-time worst version of the character and wanted to absolve himself of having done that. And what a happy story that wound up being.
Right. And so what's up, Orthodox guy? Welcome in, bud. I went and met him last week. Damn it. Wish everything would stop freaking out over here. My StreamYard is not functioning properly. You may have to end the stream when time comes because it's doing that weird click it and wait 5 minutes for it to get around to doing something. That shit drives me crazy. Okay, so like I said, Rebel Moon is beautiful. If you want to go sit down and watch something that you can literally just mindlessly stare at and drool a little bit, perfect. It's perfect. It's pretty. It's beautiful at times. It's shot like only Zack Snyder could do.
90% of the shots are in slow motion because it's a Zack Snyder picture. You know, if you took all the slow motion shots out of a Zack Snyder picture, it would be a 30-second commercial.
And if you made them all at regular time, it'd be a 30-minute episode.
But yeah, I mean, he is. You can't deny the fact that he is a very skilled visual stylist. He's just not very good at stories, is the thing.
I think it's the choice of stories he wants to tell that's the issue. The dialogue. All right. So we've already chewed through both of these films separately, and we spent half an episode chewing through them together as a unit, right? And we both pretty much loved the movies in the perspective of mute it and clean your kitchen while it's playing, right?
Yeah.
The music isn't terrible. The score is pretty decent. The actors themselves aren't horrible, but they are forced to say the most contrived and useless shit. The dialogue in those two movies are laughably insane.
Yeah, I mean, if Zack Snyder was just, say, a cinematographer / production designer, he would be brilliant. You make him a writer-director, and he's a parody of himself. And
right. He's a parody of the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree completely.
He is the distillation of bright, shiny bullshit on screen, and don't worry about the dialogue. It'll take care of itself. And I wanted to highlight those films specifically as a contrast to the writing in A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and use that to contrast House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon has all sort of literary problems because of they're being forced to compress down everything to such a point it might not even be recognizable at the other end of this. But right now they've still kind of got a pretty good groove going on as to what is happening, and they're showing a lot of it, and that's a big deal to me. Don't tell me that a battle took place off screen and everybody died. Show me the motherfuckers screaming in the goddamn streets, right?
Yeah, or make some effort to at least show maybe some of the events that are tangential to the battle taking place. I'm reminded specifically of I forget which battle it was, but second season Game of Thrones, the one where Tyrion Lannister has gotten himself out of the Eyrie.
The Battle of Blackwater.
No, not that one. The one where he joins up with the mountain tribes and then goes and sees his dad, and his dad says, "Okay, you guys can be in the vanguard, and hopefully Tyrion's son." Yeah,
he gets knocked out by a horse. Yeah,
and then he wakes up at the end of the battle, and the producers were freely admitted that we did it that way because we just didn't have the budget to depict a full battle. And I think that was an honorable way of doing it, because we saw the entire logistical build up to the thing and the tactical build up, and our main character gets knocked out, and we're only viewing the events from his perspective because he's our point of view character. So I think that was a defensible way of going about it, in the same way that in Night of the Seven Kingdoms, the fight between Aerion and Duncan takes precedence, and we focus in on that. We don't see any of the other stuff that's going on the big tournament field, because like Ira Parker said, the showrunner, that we didn't have the money to shoot all the stuff that we would have liked to shoot, and besides, we wanted to focus directly on the person versus person contest that was at the core of this whole trial. And I think that was also a perfectly honorable and defensible way of solving a budget problem.
Sure. And I agree with you 100%. Something I noticed on this most recent watch through of The Night of the Seven Kingdoms, in that final sequence of shots, in the very first charge, Duncan and Homeboy unhorse crash each other. He gets stabbed by the damn thing in the side. And in the next pass, somebody spooks his horse and tips him the fuck over, and he catches a goddamn hammer or something on the way down, and then blacks out, and it flashes back to something that happened in the past.
Oh yeah, 5 seconds into the thing, he has been knocked shitless and is bleeding and half conscious. There goes the whole romanticism of the thing. There goes any delusions of chivalric combat right out the window.
Also, his flashback is a bit telling too. He flashes back to robbing a dead knight, taking the iron hood horseshoes off his horse for a few shillings, you know, which is not exactly honorable.
Yeah. We can sell this guy's teeth back in King's Landing, dude.
Yeah, exactly. And the chick that's with him is even more so a street rat. Like, that's wild.
Oh, I know. Stop being so sentimental, Dunk.
What I'm getting at is he gets knocked out, and we go on a 12-minute rampage through his memory and come back what appears to be about 12 minutes later in the fight, when somebody finds him and starts hitting him again, which is what wakes him up. It's like pink, and he's like, oh shit, I should defend myself.
Right.
So
because
a lot of this fight takes place completely off screen and completely outside of Dunk's awareness. And so the camera, the eye of the audience doesn't get a whole lot of information. But if you slow motion your way through it, there is so much crap in the backgrounds going on. The King's Guard trying to hold freaking Maekar back in the middle of it, and he's just laying about him with his fucking mace, just fucking him up.
And we do see the fatal blow that Maekar strikes Baelor in the head. Obviously they made sure to show, even though they don't focus on it, it is in the background. You have to be looking for it, but a lot of people might miss it on the first watch through, but it definitely is there. And once you know it's there, it's hard to miss, because it's the
devastating.
And it's a fatal blow, not just by a younger brother on an elder brother, but by a prince on another prince, and also on the heir apparent to the throne, and the cascading effects that redounded from that down through the decades and centuries from Baelor being killed. I mean, that's where we get where we get the whole story in the Game of Thrones books.
That act is the reason the Mad King was on the throne. Had that battle gone differently, there would have been a totally different series of kings.
And everybody thought he was going to be a great monarch, and
he probably would have been. He probably
would have been.
That's the damnedest part of it.
And instead, Maekar, the man who struck the death blow on him, gets to be king instead. And also his son Aegon gets to be king. And then, of course, that his reign culminates in the tragedy at Summerhall, in which he and Duncan are both killed. I hope we get to see that on screen one day. That would be a fun thing to see on screen. Not necessarily fun, maybe, but interesting to see. It's one of the major events in the universe, certainly, and tragic on the same level as something like the Red Wedding, I would submit. And again, something that has just absolutely resounding consequences for centuries afterward.
It's hard to get across to people who aren't like lore deep into the whole thing how much that single act alters what is, the future past or whatever you want to call it. Because without Baelor falling in that battle, the entire sequence of not House of Dragon, but of
Night of the Seven Kingdoms.
No, actually, the rest of the sequence of House of the Dragon from that.
Well, all of it,
everything. When it comes down to it, that changes so much stuff because, and here's the thing: wasn't he raised by the Hightowers? He wasn't raised. Who was he raised by?
He was actually half Dornish.
Right, he was raised by the Dorns.
Yeah.
So he's not a Targaryen in philosophy. He's only a Targaryen by blood.
And some people actually mistrusted him because he had dark hair and Dornish features rather than the traditional Targaryen blonde hair and violet eyes and that whole thing.
And he produced a almost straight Dornish heir. Like his kid looks like he was carved out of the freaking valleys of Dorne, straight out. Whereas Baelor, he carries some Dornish features, but he's also a really big dude, and that's not common in Dorne. Like they're slight, swarthy fellows. You don't get real big guys in Dorne. There's not enough food for him. He's a big boy, but he's like a giant Dornishman when you look at him. It's not Targaryen at all.
Criston Cole, also a man of Dornish heritage, and disparagingly referred to as such by other characters in House of the Dragon. I like that line from Ormond Hightower in the last episode. Oh, so your dim-witted Dornish friend died in the mud, did he? Some line like that. I thought that was a good line.
Dude, that dude is so freaking hateful and petty. I mean, and I love the guy they've got playing you because it's absolutely perfect.
It's a fantastic bit of casting, and I love the character, and it's It's a shame he has to die tonight.
Yeah, right. As soon as I get back from dropping this chick off, I am straight up posted up in my living room with a box of fucking popcorn. I'm not even joking. I'm straight movie nighting this shit. And if I can get back, I've got most of a pint of rum over here that says I'm gonna have me a big old time.
Yeah, I think we're probably gonna be texting about that later.
Yeah, I might go back and watch a little bit of the last episode, because that last 20 minutes of that episode, last 15 minutes of this last episode, there was a lot of shit going on. One more thing I have an issue with, and this shit kind of pisses me off to no end. Why are common motherfuckers willing to even mess with a dead dragon? They live in a society for the past 500 years. Anybody that wasn't Targaryen that touched a dragon, living or dead, were literally murdered by the very next Targaryen or dragon that came along. And yet, homeboy's wandering through the fucking woods and finds his personal dragon being watched over by some asshole with a club. 2 pennies to touch it. You got 2 hands. Bullshit. That guy would have left that thing in the fucking woods and never mentioned seeing it. He wasn't involved. He wasn't even in. Dude, I was visiting my daughter in Dorne when that went down.
As we know, many of the small folk regard the dragons as gods and not necessarily creatures. Even some highborn noble folk, like what's his name? Stefan Darklin. When Rhaenyra in the second season offered him the opportunity to try and claim Sea Smoke and become his rider, he was so honored. He said that the dragons are gods and I'm just a man. What a fantastic privilege it would be to die in that effort. And he, of course, does get burned alive and does die in the effort. But that's kind of the common perception, is that, and that's also why we see in Game of Thrones the few remaining Targaryens, and also I guess we hear this in House of the Dragon a few times, people expressing the view that the Targaryens are closer to gods than men because they are able to tame and bond with and mount these creatures who are also largely considered to be something close to godlike.
Are we going to go into any of the Azor Ahai mythos and then the sword that comes and all of that shit? I've got a theory. I've had this theory for a while, and I'm just going to use this as like a springboard perhaps for next week if we happen to go down that rabbit hole again. I think the Long Night might be an eccentric orbiting moon, something that intercedes between the sun and this planet. I don't think Planetos is a planet in its own right. I think it might be a moon of a gas giant or something. Because how else can you explain a seasonal...
That's the biggest unresolved question about this universe, is why we have irregular seasons that last for years at a time.
Right. Yeah. Some summers might last 5 years. Some summers might last 2. Some winters might last 10 years, and some may be a lasting freeze, and the only explanation I've ever come across that seems to explain it is a combination 2-factor event. Planetos is a large moon around a larger gas giants. It itself also had a series of moons, and the stories that you hear from during the whole Khaleesi treatment, you hear 2 different stories about the moons cracking open and dragons spilling forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's supposed to be like oral tradition of something that happened 20,000 years ago that survived to the modern era as a collection of myths like our flood myths. This is their cracked moon myths, something that the whole planet saw, they all witnessed, and they all agree that the Long Night comes and that it's a regular event, but they can't predict when, because apparently they happen so far apart that no one is alive during 2 long nights because they're hundreds, if not thousands of years apart. And so the only thing we have is like distant references to the last one. And the hints in the last one from those references is that there was one before that was even worse, right? That it was the dawn of time out of which the entire culture came. And there is nothing before that one before. But that doesn't really make sense on a time scale basis. And I had a buddy of mine, he worked for JPL, and he's what got me into this conversation. He showed me a orbital pattern for a collection of planets that would result in the planet in question having a 7-year winter in which the light is dimmed from the sun because of the positions of the different planets in the system in combination with the moons around the giant it also orbits and its own moons. And he's like, I can't help but think that George R.R. Martin was sitting around with some dude in the bar one night that was like, and he showed him this and how it could be possible because they were having that conversation about how this is crazy. And when you add in a handful of broken moons orbiting this planet, you can stretch that shadow to however far you want to.
And throw in a wildly elliptical orbit, you could just about make it all add up. And we've had the discussion before about, and I think we both share the view that statistically speaking, in terms of habitability, the moons of gas giants are likely to be far more numerous in terms of inhabitable terrestrial bodies than regular old planets. And if indeed the universe is teeming with life on terrestrial bodies, probably the majority of them are gas giant moons.
Probably. I mean, statistically speaking, looking at us being the only source of this information would make it a vanishingly small proposition.
Yeah.
But like you said, granted the universe is actually teeming with life and that carbon bases are not necessarily the only pairing by which they could form. Suddenly all the moons out there, especially some of these new stars we're finding where they apparently have like really large masses near the star, those are very interesting because they could feasibly produce like multiple habitable bodies per gas giant. So there might be 2 or 3 Goldilocks zones in a single larger, like a red giant type solar system. Might have 14 fucking planets in it that are virtually identical to Earth, but slightly less gravity, probably.
Sure, and we haven't even ruled out the possibility that on Titan there might be liquid methane based life. We've only seen the surface once for a couple hours in one tiny little spot, but we know there is lots of liquid surface activity. There's rain falls and pretty much every form of liquid dynamism that resulted in water-based, carbon-based life on this planet, and there's no reason to exclude the possibility that the same thing couldn't happen with liquid petrochemicals.
There is one issue, and I came across this reading far too much about this bullshit when the movie Titan came out, right? And apparently one of the issues with life generating in a petroleum-based environment is the carrying of something resembling lipids. They seem to be, because there's like, I think it was iron is almost completely excluded from the entire food chain. There's something really basic that gets excluded because it's cold instead of hot.
Yeah.
Is what it comes down to. Yes, Jupiter is a freak.
And then, of course, in the Star Trek universe, you have the Tholians, silicon-based organisms that only survive in super high heat conditions as opposed to super low heat. And, who's to say life doesn't exist in both of those extremes? I think we should go back to Titan just for the heck of it. I mean, the first mission was a smashing success. We could probably do a better one now.
I want to, what's up, God's favorite, the Ravenous? Welcome in, both of you. I I want to do a combo mission. I want to send some JATO rockets to a significant asteroid and aim it at a moon. Titan would be a good choice for purely scientific reasons. Not just because I want to see a really big fucking boom that we made happen.
But that would be a fun side effect.
Right? Yeah, we definitely get the footage, but you get what I'm saying.
Nothing wrong with a big boom.
So we're coming in towards the end of the program. How do you think this went?
Oh, for a monologueless program, I think it just went about just as well as it could have. Had a lot of dragon time, got to make fun of Zack Snyder, got to do a little bit of astronomy at the end. I got no complaints.
I could complain, but nobody wants to hear that shit. I mean, why would they? So why don't you go ahead and do that thing?
I'll go ahead and do that thing. Are you going to put me on the screen, or do I have to do it this way? Ladies and gentlemen, thanks ever so much for joining us here on the Blast Radius this evening. I do very humbly apologize for the lack of a monologue tonight. First time that ever happened on episode 130, so I do hope you'll forgive me for that one oversight. Other events happened to intrude today. Didn't have time to write a monologue. I guess it happens sometimes. Won't disappoint you next week. I will come back with, I won't say the best monologue you've ever heard, because how could I possibly guarantee to top myself? But it'll be interesting, edifying, and worth your time to listen to. Let's just put it that way. And it won't take an hour and a half. Maybe I'll limit it to 20, 25 minutes. Anyway, we hope you have a great day tomorrow and a fantastic day after that and a perfectly edifying rest of your week. We will see you next Sunday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, as we always do. See you next time. Good luck. Stay safe. Get off my lawn.